Welcome back, everyone, to Business and Life Stories with Mike and James. Joining us this week are Zach Richards and Gus Zucarro of Caddy Moving. The reason we asked them to come spend some time on this show is because what they're doing with moving, and we're talking about whether you're moving your house across town or across the country, it's very different than the traditional model, and it's a change that's much needed in the industry. Welcome, guys.
Mike, James, thanks for having us. We're excited to be
Welcome.
here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
So we always like to ask people how you got to this point. As entrepreneurs and creators, you have to believe in a vision of something that doesn't exist. So what sort of prompted you to upend the moving industry?
Yeah, I can kick it off. So I was a part of a moving company throughout college. Got some experience as a mover and also doing some behind the scenes work at that company. I got to really feel out the industry and learn from, I guess, the ground up, you could say. Most of the moving logistics are quite difficult, like for most customers, getting a sales quote, having to coordinate with a moving company, probably expecting to pay thousands of dollars. It's just not a pleasant experience. And I got to see that firsthand. And so out of college, I decided that I wanted to create something that was more simplified for the customers and create something that was so simple and just so straight to the point that it could not be easier to get movers through what we do, which is just hourly rates and just online simple booking coordination. And we've taken away the sales estimate. We've taken away the call representative that you have to go through or in-home estimate that you have to go and get by someone in person. And we essentially just provide movers at an hourly basis and make it as simplified as possible.
You originally started with a degree in aviation, right?
Yeah.
You were in some kind of marketing, I think, was your thing. So that's quite a transition. How did that happen?
Yeah, it's great question, and it's really funny. With my friends, I actually joke that I'm running an airline because it really does feel like we're running an airline at the end of the day with the logistics. It's all the same, getting people to and from places, getting things to and from places. The aeronautics thing was I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to fly airplanes for a living. One thing led to another. That career path just didn't work out for me, and entrepreneurship was like my next kind of thing I wanted to jump into. So like the whole idea with the aviation industry is just keeping things, it's like controlled chaos, right? Just keeping things as organized as possible in such a crazy manner. And the industry is so far behind, just like every other logistics company running with paper and pen, and they're behind on software too. So that was really interesting, and learning a little bit about how they manage operations, dispatch, and logistics in college gave me a little bit of insight on some ideas on what we could do for our movers. And so there's a couple of things that we do that's very similar to the airline industry, the way we do dispatch, the way we onboard our movers, the way we train them, the way we do current training. There's a lot of overlap, like with what pilots have to go through and what our movers actually have to go through.
And then Gus, you're a CPA. So talk to us about the number side of this business. What's the market look like, and how are you guys able to penetrate what's out there?
Absolutely. So one of the great things about the moving industry is in a time like the end of September in 2022, people move more during a recession. So it looks like if we're going into one, based on the market, it looks like we might be. Our market isn't going to necessarily change because of that, which is exciting for us. We're going to have a little more supply or a little more demand, and we've seen that. From a background perspective, I don't have the aviation background that Zach has, but we were lucky enough to meet down here in Austin. It would have been last November, just at a friend's house through a mutual connection, and we ended up sitting aside and talking about entrepreneurship, kind of kicking around the moving idea for a little over an hour that night. And a few more conversations later, we found ourselves where we are today.
So would you describe this as one of the more recession-resistant type of businesses?
I would, especially how we have the moving company structured and the type of customers we're trying to acquire. Today we're a labor-only moving company. Our rates are some of the best in the market for movers, and our rates are easy to understand. We're certainly not a white glove moving service. We can move 8,000 square foot homes. It's not our bread and butter. We typically do a lot more storage units. We do a lot more college apartments, a lot of apartments, smaller scale moves. But with that being said, we can cover with our model any type of move.
So I don't know which of you would like to answer the next question, or maybe both of you. I really wanted to highlight how the customer experience is different. So I'm guessing most listeners have moved more than once. It is never a pleasant experience, and there's way too many people on the moving company side. And always the question, where the heck is my stuff, and is it all going to the same place? It seems like you guys have really got a handle on fixing these problems. So can you describe a little bit more detail how how would a customer experience the company? So that they find you online, and then what do they do?
Yeah, so the one thing that's different about our company is that we don't provide trucks. So that might be a surprise to some listeners, but really at the end of the day, there's so many truck rental businesses out there. There's U-Haul, Penske, Budget, Enterprise, and most of them are actually very reasonable. And the most difficult portion of the moving process is actually getting like the correct labor just to get the items moved and handled properly. That's where we come in, and that's where we take care of everything from start to finish. And our customers enjoy the ease and the control of having the authority over their items when they're moving from A to B, not relying on, a random mover to drive their things across maybe a highway, interstate. That can be quite stressful. And if you've talked to anybody that's moved maybe across the country, or they've had a relocation service move their items for them, those trucks, they'll run over bumps, like they'll get into some issues, or maybe like things will just get lost and the company just says, oh, well. And that's like the most common thing that we hear. And so when you're in control of your items, when you're actually driving the truck yourself, I mean, there's no one to blame but yourself if anything gets stolen or lost. So like it kind of eases up on the mind for most of our customers. And then as Gus mentioned, we're obviously in a recession-proof industry because people still move during recessions, but we're also making ourselves recession-proof by offering a service that we believe is just so valuable. And there's so many reasons why someone should choose to book with a company like ours, that we want to make the offer as fruitful and as amazing as possible, that someone just can't say no to it. And that comes with lower minimums, that comes with reasonable pricing, and that comes with hourly rates. So there's no flat fees. I mean, there's no other company that you can really say is more affordable and more efficient. So that's like what we're trying to create, so that when we go through possibly rough times, it's like, who else are you gonna use? We're trying to make the offer as best as possible.
This is one of the things that we really loved about it when we were looking at your company. It is so refreshing to be able to have labor provided. We drive our own trucks as the customer, and then there's labor on the other end to unload all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is the thing that has been missing. So what do you think was the reason traditional trucking and moving companies didn't do this in the first place, or at least get better drivers?
Yeah. Gus, do you have your perspective? You can go first.
Absolutely. Moving is a very traditional and slow to adapt industry. Typically, we've seen kind of some of these newer, more scalable tech moving companies, or tech-enabled moving companies, Bellhop, Dolly, now us. But those companies have not been around very long. Part of that is just that traditional business model of the company needs to own the truck. The company needs to, train all of these employees on site, wherever the headquarters is, and then send them back on a plane to whatever city they'll be living in. And with the Uber model, as Uber and Airbnb have shown, that doesn't need to be the case for every business. And luckily for us, moving has been one of the last businesses to realize that and then to create a model there.
So how did you guys come up with the marketing plan? The website looks good. The social media looks good. I think it would have escaped most people trying to innovate in this industry of moving. How did you guys come up with this? Was it just a lot of late night discussions, or hanging around in Austin with all the other entrepreneurs, or what kind of formulated your marketing plan?
Yeah, great question. So honestly, this is probably more like my wheelhouse with just getting creative with how we attract the attention of customers to purchase a product or service. And the whole idea behind the website is just the modern experience is here to stay. You know, people demand efficiency and convenience, and companies that are not easily mobile compatible, you can go through pages on a mobile device or your laptop without having a 404 page pop up. I mean, just simple stuff like that, and then also throwing in some, you know, modern colors, some good fonts, and big graphics. Like that's what the consumer is kind of expecting these days. And for the moving industry, it's just like, I mean, the competition has yet to upgrade their website since 2008. So like it's
Oh my
really
goodness.
it's really a breath of fresh air when you see a company like ours pop up, and you can come to our website and like in literally 4 clicks you can book movers. And that was the whole idea from the beginning. Just make it as seamless and easy and modernized as possible.
And for the other entrepreneurs who are starting their own companies different than yours or different industries, what do you recommend people do as they're starting a business? How do they make connections? Have you guys find Austin to be a good spot? Are there other things you do?
Yeah, I would connections certainly. Austin has been incredible. Whether that be entrepreneurs at the Capital Factory, meeting entrepreneurs, and just individuals through friends. I know there's a really great cohort of people who hang out at Barton Springs on Sundays and seem to just talk about business and life. And it kind of goes back to the principle of surround yourself with people that you want to emulate or be like. And if you're doing that on a daily basis, it's certainly not easy to be successful, but it makes things a lot easier.
I'd also say too, the idea of sourcing out like a mentor organically is a huge, I think, thing for most entrepreneurs. I found some really strong mentors quite quickly in Austin, and that happened through Capital Factory. Some of them happened through just mutual friends that introed me because they thought that we'd be a good connection, and just people that I can go to and ask for like really just business advice, life advice, and they've been there, done that. They've proven their success in their businesses, and they want to like take, you know, a young entrepreneur like myself under their wing. Like I think that's super valuable, because then it gives you kind of like a role model that you can say like, hey, I want to think through their brain and I want to do what they're doing, because they've walked this walk before, and now they've kind of like done a little bit of foreseeable future, or looking into the future for me, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I experienced that many years ago. The older folks telling me, "Oh, you're about to run into that brick wall," and I'm sitting there going, "I don't see a wall," and they would say, "We know." That's the whole point. Anyway, James looks like he has some questions.
Yeah, I think to put my caveat on it, I moved trans-global 15 more years ago over to New Zealand, and again, it was the quote, but it was like all the stuff. It was quite an intricate. It was via with the container and shipping, etc., etc. So, what really interests me about your model is, was it an easy sell to close people on an hourly rate as opposed to like kind of a quote? My experience was, and again, this was England, maybe a little bit different in the States, but they came in, they were super efficient. I didn't want to get my back as sore as theirs obviously was. And it did seem an easier way, just it was X amount and they came in and did it. I guess on the other side of the coin, if they're paying per hour, are they going to be slow, fast? Like, what is the training? So how did you kind of close the customer on that? But I guess how are you you mentioned a lot of training for your movers. So are you doing kind of different training, or I can see both sides of the coin there, like from the movers perspective on how well they are trained, how efficient, time efficient scheduling, etc., but also the customer perspective of paying an hourly rate, which might have the perspective of people being kind of larger and overweight and kind of slower on the scene and everything else, right?
Yeah, great question. So going back to like your experience with moving internationally, so that's the type of move that might result in like multiple days to get finished. And you know, if it extends by like 24 or 48 hours on a time frame that's already going to be multiple days on end, that percentage like fluctuation isn't even that big of a deal. But if we were charging an hourly rate, that's like thousands of dollars. So that's where like the model doesn't work for those like large international moving, you know, situations. Our moves are like roughly 2 to 4 hours long is like our sweet spot. And whether it takes 2.5 hours or 4.5 hours, I mean, there's some slight fluctuations there, but the percentage that percentage fluctuation isn't like significant. So for the most part, our clients understand that. Excuse me, our clients understand that. And we obviously instruct our movers to be as efficient but as careful as possible. We do go through a certain cohort of training with videos and virtual interviews and just making sure that people are staying current. They're not doing one job a month, but you know, doing a one job every like 2 to 3 weeks, just so they're staying on top of the ball. All things that kind of stem from the aviation industry a little bit, but really, I don't think most of our clientele has, or at least the feedback we've gotten in the past 10 months has been that they're concerned about the speed of our movers, because most of the jobs, like I said, are usually smaller, roughly 2 to 4 hours long.
Yeah. And to speak on the supply side as well, we have some pretty simple but empowering incentives in place for our movers. So every mover starts with Caddy at $18 an hour. And each mover is reviewed after each move by the customer. And we get a lot of good input there on kind of what went well, what went poorly. Now, what's important is for every 5-star review for each mover, they get a 10-cent raise forever. So the next time they go on a job, they'll make $18.10. If they get another 5-star review, $18.20. It may seem small, but as that grows, it's pretty empowering for the movers. It incentivizes them to do a good job and really a quick job while being careful with our customers' goods, life possessions. Along with that, it incentivizes them to take more moves. So our movers like that. I think we found a lot of success with that simple model for incentives that is put to bed movers doing things slowly to kind of milk a customer, if you will.
And just right off the cuff question here, but health and fitness is everywhere nowadays. Certainly, I worked for a few years in the alternative building industry, and still, I mean, I'm not putting them down, but tradies are not always. Although I think that's changing as well, but my traditional image of movers are possibly larger, maybe kind of not necessarily in shape, but just like really physically strong. I guess how important is it, and is the image changing now? Like I have seen in the construction industry, the roofing industry, like people are keeping fit. They like getting treated. They're working more efficiently, improves customer service, etc., etc. So how much of that new mindset is entering the industry, which you admitted was sort of one of the slower ones to change in many ways?
It's a good question. I'd say most of our movers are, an average fit. We don't have any like bodybuilders, I would say, on the team. But for the most part, we really hone in on those reviews, and the way we really maintain quality here is based on customer feedback, and it's immediate. It's immediate feedback to basically ensure that we have the best quality movers on staff at all times, and their really only job is to please the customer. And what we like to say here is we don't care how you do it, just make the customer happy. So that comes down to like all the things, right? Being polite, professional, on time, fit, working hard, being careful. It's all of it. It's not just one thing. So while fitness and health is obviously like at the forefront of what we do because it's very physically challenging to be a mover, we just let our movers know, like, we just want you to do the very best that you can, and that will reflect in the reviews. And if it's an issue, like if it's something where like your physical capabilities are preventing you from being successful at caddy moving, then we have that conversation. It's few and far between, but we've definitely had to do it.
And what I find really interesting is that a generation or two ago, a lot of trades had a real pride associated with them, right? Back in maybe my grandfather's time, a lot of trades, they were dressed particularly well. There was always a sense of pride. And then I just have that feeling that a lot of that kind of fell away, maybe in the last 20 years or maybe 30 years, kind of, I don't know, like other things became more prominent. But what I'm hearing is that with the customer service, which really ties in how one relates to a customer, one's physical ability to be capable, have you found that the pride is coming back to the job? I mean, I know at the end of the day, a job's a job, but the people going, hey, I'm a great mover, loads and loads of 5-star reviews. Like, are you helping bring that back to the industry?
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting question. I've actually done a lot of research on this. In like the 80s and 90s, the moving industry prided themselves in their uniforms and their brand and basically like the labor force that they would hire on. Very interesting concept because like nowadays you don't see it as much with like people showing up in, I don't know, overalls or like a full moving uniform. And I think where we're heading is more so in the numbers. And that's basically just saying, like coming back to like how we incentivize based on like quality service. As a mover, it's not my forefront of focus to maybe show up in uniform and say like this is me, that like I'm the mover. It might be more so, I think, heading in the direction of like I'm just a hard worker in general, and I take pride in like the customer service that I bring forth, and that could be for Caddy, that could be for Uber, that could be for DoorDash, or that could be for the next company that I work for after this, because we definitely hit home on the gig economy. Our entire business model is centered around the gig economy worker, and so that's essentially where I think we're going, which is where people more so identify themselves with just the quality of work that they bring forward for the company, and maybe less so along the lines of like identifying themselves with like a certain position.
Because obviously, like within, whether or not a recession does come about, but within a dip, everyone becomes a little bit more price conscious, right? But at the end of the day, what can always shine through is value, which is the quality of service and the value of the product. So is that something which you're really, really trading on, or are you trying to be really, really competitive with the price as well? Or it's like, nah, this is our price, but this is the value which we're bringing to the table?
Yeah, we feel that we bring we're able to bring both due to our financial model. We can offer a lower price, but still make sure that a customer is always satisfied, whatever that looks like. We have customer service agents on the phone whenever moves are going on. So if someone does need to contact us, they can get to us. And we're available to, if a customer has a frown on their face, we can do our best to make that a smile, whatever that looks like. And if they had a bad experience, we of course want to learn from that, but our first and foremost goal is to make that right with the customer. A business without happy customers is a great way to burn through money.
That's such a great quote, Gus.
Yeah. So what the tech's really enabled you to do is become a really efficient business model, but also, as you said, like have customer service agents on call during a job. So it's sort of improving the human experience as well, right?
For sure. Yeah. Sorry.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we want the modern consumer to experience the modern convenience of booking online and going through an online checkout experience without having to talk to anyone. I mean, that's the forefront of our business, but we do offer the phone support if we do need, if someone does want to chat with a human, they could still do so, obviously. And, you know, other competitors in our space are, you know, leaving the phone behind. And I think that might be a small mistake, at least in the beginning of all this. I don't know about you guys, but I get quite frustrated when I can't get a hold of, you know, someone, even if it's a tech forward business that probably has chat box or a good FAQ sheet. It still is warming to know that like you can talk to a human if you have like issues, and we want to make sure we keep that for a good while.
I'm really glad to hear that. Companies that get rid of their phone, it's a great way to create unhappy customers and to drive away potential customers. So,
Exactly.
Do you guys have anything in particular that you want to share with the audience in the last few minutes here? We'll have your links down below where they can reach you guys, and your company website and your LinkedIn profiles. So do you guys hang out anywhere in Austin, or how do people find you?
Yeah, great question. So we are available at caddymoving.com. That's our website. We hang out at Barton Springs a lot on the weekends. That's a good place for us to really kind of get creative and relax. As Gus mentioned, that's honestly where we've met a lot of connections and honestly business partners that really we were just having a very relaxing weekend, and conversations led to another. And what do you know, we're kind of in business together. So Barton Springs has been really great to us. I love Zilker Park. I'm a really big fan of walking down Congress too on the weekends. I'll let Gus share what he likes to do.
All those things that Zach said. I'll play a little bit of tennis and a little bit of golf. So I'm at Austin High School every once in a while. And then I'm starting to get into pickleball as well. So the various pickleball courts around town, which are always packed, but it's fun to squeeze in a game here and there.
All right. So any last thoughts for people starting companies? What's your big takeaway that you've learned so far?
I honestly love the idea of testing your idea with as minimal capital as possible. I think Gus and I are both on the same page with like finding the customers before you might even have like the product. And that really just comes down to like most businesses just have the biggest issue with getting people to pay for their service. They might think it's a great idea. They might think that's, you know, some innovative idea that is going to change the world. But like if nobody actually uses it or wants it, then you don't necessarily have a business. So at the start of this whole thing, I mean, I had my moving background and I had a very good sense that people were going to want this type of a service based on my experience. So I was confident in putting a lot of my savings into it because of my previous experiences. But for others that are being innovative and trying to create new product or new services, I think it really, really pays to understand like the audience that you're actually going after and find the cheapest way possible that you could put it in front of them and test it out just to see if they'll actually pay for it. Because if you can build a trustworthy database of, paying customers that are ready to give you their credit card information, then it's like, okay, well, now we might have something to build on here, and let's see what we can do.
All right,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I think being an active learner, try and learn something new every day. We already talked about having good mentors, making those connections, but reading good books. I know The Lean Startup by Eric Ries really helped me, kind of what Zach just talked about, having an MVP, minimal amount of capital, and then building incrementally on top of that, continuously getting customer feedback. It's all been really helpful, kind of switching over to this more entrepreneurial lifestyle.
Well, thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate your time, and looking forward to seeing Caddy grow. We got a lot of confidence in what you guys are doing. It's really neat to see industries getting completely
Sounds
changed.
really good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks so much.
Thank you.